Welcome to the show, folks. This is Wrestling Changed My Life. Here we go.
A lot of people say, why don't you go down a weight or up a weight? And I'm like, why wouldn't you go face the best guy in the world?
We can endure anything and adapt and pivot and change. Wrestling gave us that ability.
I would say nothing in life has impacted me more than the things wrestling has taught me in terms of self-reflection, resilience.
Toughness. Some guys have it, some guys don't.
Adversity, 100%. How to pick myself up and be a man after I failed.
And everything that has shaped my life and where I'm at today would not be there without the values and basically the lessons I've learned through the sport of wrestling.
For me, wrestling saved my life because it allowed me to focus and channel my energy.
We're fortunate if you wrestled, because if you wrestled, natural talent helps, but it's 5% of the ingredient. It pales in comparison to heart and technique and effort.
It humbled me, taught me humility. Nothing can humble you more than wrestling. I think it's the learning to adapt, right? You learn how to adapt, you learn how to solve problems.
You know, if I look back at my time I spent wrestling, if they gave me one thing more than anything else, it's mental toughness.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. This is Ryan Warner with Wrestling Changed My Life. My guest today is Gil Sanchez, NCAA runner-up in 1987, losing to the great John Smith. But Gil Sanchez, folks, handed John W. his last collegiate loss ever, and you better believe that we talk about it in this episode. Gil is now a principal out in South Carolina, and I really enjoyed this episode. I hope you do as well, folks. Fan of the week goes to Blaine_Christie on the gram. Thank you for the love and support. And folks, if you want to support this podcast, please give us a 5-star rating or review if you feel we deserve it. It helps raise the profile of the podcast when other folks are searching for wrestling content. That's it, folks. I've said my piece. Now let's give it up for the great Gil Sanchez. Gil Sanchez, welcome to the podcast, sir. Thank you for doing this.
You're welcome.
Man, so you come from a huge wrestling family. I had no idea how many of the Sanchez brothers, your dad, your uncles wrestled back in the day. What was your first start into the sport? How'd you get into it? How old were you?
Well, of course, my father was national NCAA runner-up at 118. His brother, he was a state champ. They went to the Marines, all-Marine team, and he was coaching wrestling when I was born. And then his younger brother was Ray Sanchez, four-time All-American, four-time high school's first, I think, either first or second Wyoming state champ, four-timer. It's a I might have to send you some pictures. He won the U.S. Open as a senior in high school. He has his high school warm-up at the U.S. Nationals. He won it twice. He won it back-to-back. So he, I think that was when freshmen couldn't wrestle.
At the Nationals?
Yeah, he wrestled, got in a car wreck. He came back, was an All-American. I think he got 6th. But he made the world team. He was a world team member. I mean, Ray Sanchez was probably the best out of all of us. I'm not even close to the best Sanchez. And then my dad, of course, being a national finalist, he won the U.S. National. He won Greco freestyle one year. In the same year, he won both styles. And
wow,
they were little guys, 114 and a half, 115 in college. So that's what I grew up in. And I had 2 younger brothers, Jim Sanchez and Frank. And so my dad, of course, had a wrestling club, and Shine Wrestling Club, which is still going today. And we have our little reunion every now and then. And that's how we started. I started later officially with the club, just because we moved from Phoenix to Cheyenne. And my brothers were phenoms as little kids, and I was not. My brother Jim, of course, won the junior nationals. He was 2-time state champ. He had already made a world team before I even had a world record, a winning record. Yeah, he made 4 or 5 world teams when he was little. He made the cadet world team, the junior world. He made and one year in college, he made the freestyle world trials or the Greco world trials. And then the freestyle world trials the next year, wrestling Zeke and all those guys. But
Wow.
my brother Jim was a beast as a little kid, and I was terrible. I think I got pinned my first 50 matches, pretty close. And my brothers were already winning national titles, and I didn't even have a winning record. But luckily, my dad was a great coach, and he coached me up. In fact, he'd put me in 4 or 5 pinholes every day after practice, and when I was little, and I got really good off my back. I got really good.
You're known for a top bottom wrestler. When did you kind of develop your own style and really start to love it? Was it high school or was it even later than that for you?
I got better in high school, but again, I was tiny. In 10th grade, I weighed 83 pounds. My sister, we're 11 months apart. She never grew. She's still 100 pounds, 5'8" or 10. She's tiny, but that's what I was. In 10th grade, 83 pounds. In 11th grade, I remember moving the weight over to the 100 pounds because I wrestled 98. But I was little and skinny, and of course, everybody's told me, I would not win the state title or anything like that because I was too little. But my dad coached me up, and I had some good partners and a good team, and ended up winning a couple states. But yeah, I was tiny, and then so college-wise, nobody really looked at me. People don't know that I was a walk-on. I walked on at Nebraska. People didn't think I'd be big enough. No one said, why are you going to college? You're tiny. But I sat out 1 year. I lifted weights. I went and trained some Greco. I was kind of a Greco dude. And when I first started out in California with Mark Fuller and that group. And then I came back and I was probably about 10 pounds bigger. And then, I just walked on at Nebraska. I called those guys up and said, hey, my name's Gil Sanchez. When do we start? And they told me, and of course, then we had they recruited Matt Campbell, which one, top 5 recruit. Alan Francis from Iowa was a 2-timer. He was we had 5 18-pounders, and then I walked on, of course. And luckily, I had great coaches, great partners, and I made the team as a freshman at 118, and I placed in the Midlands as a true freshman, and the rest is just great teammates, great coaches, great schedule, and of course the help of my family and my dad and everybody just mentoring me to be better. I got put in a great environment to, get better. And my dad was a funker, a roller, scrambler, and that's where I learned it, and just scrambling and having play wrestling mostly. And my coaches were that way. Kelly Ward, he would grab you for like an hour when I was a freshman and a sophomore, would grab you and just talk and wrestle and roll around for 1 solid hour and just playing and working at honing different things. And, environment like that really made it easy for me to get better, to have the opportunity. But of course, the grind is the grind, and it can wear anybody down.
That redshirt year must have been, not redshirt year, but the skip year must have been pretty cool. Going to California and training. Were you working at the time, or did you just train and lift weights during the day?
No, I worked like half the year at a refinishing shop. I learned how to do some wood furniture. And then, so I went out there and trained, I think almost 2.5 months. And of course, working out with my dad and some other people. And I'd go to tournaments, of course. And it was just a great experience to get out. And Mark Fuller won 3 Olympic games. I went to the Junior World Greco that year, and I did take him down, and then he beat me. And I think I was maybe 18, and they let me stay for the Junior World Camp. And wow, I mean, on that team, I think we had 6 Olympians, and I grew up fast as a young guy, getting to hang out with some big-time Greco dudes. So that was my first time where I kind of made the jump of just being a skinny kid from Wyoming to being able to stay and hang out with some of the best guys around and get to watch them. Same thing when I was younger. I got to go to the Olympic training camp with my dad, and that was where I made the jump to be a state champ. But a funny story, we're at the Olympic Training Center, and some guy comes up to my dad, hey, can you ref the match and have your son time? And my dad's like, sure. We headed over to the mats, and it was Gable and Lee Kemp were going all by themselves on like 8 mats, and we were the only 2 there watching the 2 best guys in the world go at it, and we were like, wow, this is what it takes, and these are the best guys. So I was very lucky my whole career to be around and watch and try to emulate the best guys around.
How did that go between Gable and Lee Kimco? What do you remember from it?
I just remember those guys were going at it. It was friendly for about 30 seconds, and they were going at it. I mean, they used all 8 mats, let me say that, and it was crazy, and just, you don't know what's going on here. You know, I was a little, I think I was just going to be a junior when that happened, and you're like, wow, you're not even grasping all the stuff they're doing. But again, being around my dad and being around guys like that and just watching, I was great at watching and learning and asking questions and put myself around good people.
So what was the transition like once you got to Nebraska from, your true freshman year, you have a good start to the year,
yeah,
and then, 86, you get second at the Big 8s, go to nationals. And then obviously the 86-87 season was where you got second in the country. But talk to us about the progression of when you got there day one as a true freshman 118 pounder to getting to your junior year where you were really peaking. What was that like?
Again, as a true freshman, our team had Al Freeman, who was my hero and idol. You had the Shear brothers, Ray Oliver. I mean, we had an all-star cast of some amazing role models that did it the right way. So I was lucky to get thrown into that. Al Freeman, I snuck into, I would always, as a true freshman, I kind of started knowing what to do. I would sneak into the debating center to work out, and Al Freeman would be there. He'd be, how'd you get in? And then he would kind of mentor me on what to do. And so I was very lucky to have those guys as a true freshman to help mentor me and get through it. So that was a start, emulating them and trying to be like them, and their dedication, hard work, their off-season training. That was the start. I think the schedule and, we had Iowa State, Oklahoma State. Everybody in the division was tough. So Oklahoma, you always got to see the best guys in the world wrestling all the time. So that at least put my eyes and my vision in the right direction. And then, of course, Coach Fears, who was a beast, and my first coach, with Kelly Ward, they helped shape me in trying to get better, always trying to get better. I never was beat on or bothered. They just groomed me in a way to love wrestling. My dad was the same way. My dad wasn't a screamer or yeller. It was about the zen of the wrestling, and technique were like magic tricks, to be that good where you could barely touch a guy and take him down. That was the magic of wrestling that my dad taught. But Kelly Ward was the same way. It was about tricks and enjoying, but
the Zen of Wrestling, your dad called it?
No, we all kind of, I don't know. That's what
I
it was.
That.
It was the art of wrestling. It wasn't any grinding. My dad never talked about points, never talked about winning. It was none of that. It was just the art, the moves, the skill from a young age. So being his dummy for a long time. Let's go back to my dad. I worked out with my dad probably till I was a sophomore in college. I could barely beat him even then. My dad was a funker and a scrambler. My dad at 65, he's 80 now. He looks the same and he's still tough. He can drill. Sometimes we go to matches, he'll be showing moves.
No way.
If you saw when my friends see him, they go, he looks exactly the same. So.
Well, he got third in the 60 Olympic trials, and I was like, man, the 60 Olympic trials, that's a long time ago,
Yeah, he's 80. I think he's 83, 82, but he's still tough. So making that jump, then the high school, then in college, the Big 8 back then was so jam-packed of just stars everywhere. Candy Monday, Nate Carr. You turn around and you got the best guy. So knowing you had to compete against that, it made you have the mindset, I gotta step it up. And luckily I had great partners, great coaches. My first coach was Bob Fears and Kelly Ward. And of course the room was, they had a lot of money sitting on the bench when I was a freshman. So I made me wrestle up every weekend for my spot, which hardened me to be better. I mean, I just realized, hey, this is not going to be easy. I gotta pick it up every day in the room. And Like I said, the rooms where it was at in the grind, and I was lucky to have partners. And then Tim Newman helped as assistant, and he took over when Fears left. And by luck, he recruited and got Mark Perry to come to us. And the Perrys, as you know, are phenom technically and just wizards at wrestling. And I was lucky that Mark was my size and still could go. And I worked out with Mark, and as soon as he got there, I'm like, wow, what a windfall for me to have Oklahoma State technical whiz in my corner. And that's where I made some big jumps. And training wise, Perry was he was a crazy trainer, but man, he got you ready. And
How
he
do you
believed
mean?
it. Oh, just our workouts and what he'd make us do. But again, he believed in me, which against the best. I mean, obviously he's John Smith's brother-in-law, and he believed and wanted me to win. I mean, I got a funny story about our match. I could get to that later.
Tell it. Let's hear it.
Well, let's start with that whole rivalry and what happened. I had wrestled John, I think his freshman year, my sophomore year. He beat me up pretty good. He had his little bar arm. He turned me on that. And then I wrestled him the year before in the Omaha tournament. That tournament, people don't realize that tournament was huge. 80-some guys in the weight. There was no JV bracket or B bracket. No. It was 8 or 9 matches to the finals in one day. So I wrestled him. I think the year he just got second, and the next year, it had been my junior year. I can't remember if it was my junior or something, but we had a battle in the finals, and I was up by 4 points with 27 seconds left. And I should have went and got a popcorn. I should have ran around. And I'm like, no, I'm going to take him down again. And that was wrong. He did, where he hooks your arm and steps over, got 5 at the buzzer. I ended up losing by 1. That was my first time against a big-time opponent. That weight class, if you look back at the bracket, it was stacked.
But you beat him in the duel 2 days before that, though, at Lincoln.
No, this is Omaha a year before.
Oh, because the next year he stayed at the Omaha Open, and so you guys were scrapping even then. Okay.
Yeah, so we're getting that's the prelude where the first match where I should have beat a big time wrestler. That was the first match, a big time tournament, making it to the finals. I'm like, I'm getting closer, and that's when Perry, you could tell the influence. I was getting closer. And the mentality too, most guys would be like, oh man, run around, go get a popcorn, hot dog it. I was like, no, I'm going to take him down again. So I think overall he respected my mentality of I'm not going to shy away. And later on, and when we wrestled again, sometimes I should have had a different approach in my tactics. So right there, that was the first big time meeting where it was close. And then so the summer he wins the Goodwill Games, #1 ranked wrestler in the world. In the first duels at Lincoln, I still have my goal sheet. First, #1, beat John Smith. I should have put 3 times, but I just had it once in there. So my goal sheet had beat John Smith, #1 on my fridge, and Perry coached me up my training. And really wasn't specifically against John. It was just, hey, here's what you're good at. Let's get in those situations. And we used to have the video of the match, but it's disappeared. But I do have the last 30 seconds of that match. So maybe I'll send it to you. Not many people can have that feeling in your home crowd. There's 1,000 people showed up and winning the match. So
was he a big name when he won the Goodwill Games and going into that season?
Well, it was all over the world because it was from Russia, and again, he was ranked number one in the world, and the Husker fans came to see him too. It wasn't just about me. So,
did you and Mark have any conversations about wrestling John before that match, like one-on-one, getting ready for him, like what he would do and those kind of things?
A little bit, but it was more about just preparing to get better. It wasn't really, look out for this and that, and he's good here, but he was good anywhere. So it wasn't like you could be looking out the whole time. But Mark was more do what you're good at, and you can score, get in those scrambles. I was good at. It was just funk wrestling back then. Everybody does it now, but back then, even John would say that the way we wrestled and the style was funky back then. And now they have names for the moves. When we did it, they didn't have names for the moves, and we just did it, and we got good at it. So the setup, the duel, comes to Lincoln, and ranked number 1. We had that was the biggest crowd I had ever seen at Lincoln to see that match. And the match goes, basically, he would shoot his high crotch on me, put me in the air, and I'd lock in his crotch. We get a huge scramble, and I'd end up on top. I did that twice, and one time I caught him with I did the claw back when, I don't even know. That's in the 80s. I was doing the claw and crab. I was a crab rider. I got the claw and got him on his back, and he was not happy. He was not happy. And to get 13 points against John Smith, you know, I was fired up, and I know it kind of affirmed all my training and my coaches, and that's the biggest win I ever had. And to do it in your hometown was pretty cool. I just started dating a girl, and I said, hey, I got a match. If you want to come, you know. So she comes to that match, and she's like, wow, that was pretty big. Is that kind of a big deal? I don't know. So he's go ahead.
I was gonna say, so afterwards that night had to be the biggest win of your career at that point.
Oh yeah.
You know, what do you what do you remember from that night? Were you living in an apartment at the time? Were you living in a dorm? What did you guys do afterwards?
We went home. I lived with my brother. We had the Omaha tournament in a couple of days, so it wasn't like you could go crazy. And back then, honestly, my coaches, our team, nobody like pumped their fist or got in the camera. You know, it was like, you know, I kind of treated it as expected and business as usual. I'll send you the video. It's pretty insane, and just to see that, and also you notice the shape you're in, and just everybody's ripped to shreds, and it's pretty amazing. My buddy found 2 tapes. He found the Barry Davis tape this year. I had 0 tapes of me winning. All my, you know, wrestlers and friends, and they go, yeah, all the videos we have of you getting whipped. I'm like, I know there's some out there where I win against a good guy. And my buddy found the Barry Davis tape, which is on YouTube, and I haven't released the 30 seconds of John Smith. I don't know what happened to the full match. The full match is crazy. The scrambles are just unbelievable. I got a couple pictures of they took a couple pictures of me having him on his back, which is pretty amazing too. I'll send you some of those, which is just cool to have.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to ask you, was it broadcast on like local TV, or is it just like a home video?
It was a home video. I don't know what happened to it. I know I had it for a year, and then I had no idea. Somebody probably copied it over.
Man. Oh my God. I'm dying.
We do have the clip of the last 30 seconds. It's pretty sweet.
I can't wait to watch it. Now, what happens next is story of absolute legend in the wrestling world. And I don't know if you've heard this story, but there's an interview of John on YouTube talking. I'm sure you've seen it, talking about it. So, you know, he's coming off of beating Azayev, won the Goodwill Games, and he had redshirted the year before. You know, so he hadn't wrestled a folk style match since Jim Jordan had beaten him, and so he took 2 losses in a row in folk style. I don't think a lot of people realize that in NCAA competition. He's so upset by it, he decides to stay in Nebraska, rents a car, and drives to Omaha and posts up for the night, knowing you guys would be at the Omaha Open the next day. Did you know any of this before you got to the Omaha Open Saturday morning?
Yeah, I knew he was going to be there. Mark had already told me, and you know, some people might have said, "Man, why don't you just not go and be ranked number 1?" I was like, "No, I'll go beat him again." And again, that tournament, people, the Omaha tournament, and what was the other huge tournament?
There's one at UNI. There was one at
the
UNI.
The UNI tournament was massive too. That year, they had to be done by 6 o'clock in the evening for something. So we wrestled like back. I mean, it was like 10. One of my buddies was in the wrestlebacks. He was on match 15, and he like seized up. They were huge, no bars, no holds. Just everybody's going to the end. And like I said, we wrestled probably about 5:30, and it's funny. One of my childhood workout partners from the Cheyenne Wrestling Club was wrestling from Wyoming. He just told me this story this summer. He goes, yeah, we were there. And I'm like, when did you come and talk to me? He goes, you were busy. And so I guess he tells me that when we're wrestling, the whole gym shuts down. No matches are running. Nobody's going anywhere, and everybody piles around. I didn't know. Like I said, I didn't remember any of this. He goes, yeah, the whole. He goes, I've never seen it, but the whole tournament shut down for your guys' match. And
wow.
Again, John went to more basic and less scrambles. I think he took me down twice. I might have scored 3 points, but that was that. And then, like I told you earlier, they moved me. I was ranked like 10th to start the year, and then they moved me to 8 when I beat John the first time. And then the next weekend, I wrestled Barry Davis in the finals of the UNI tournament and beat him. I think 11-2. I put him on his back. Then they put me second. So that's the funny story of I finally got some due after beating the best guy at Oklahoma State ever, and then probably arguably the best guy and Davis was still in his prime because he had just got a world silver, and I think the next year got a world silver. So it wasn't like he was retired and just going to open,
Right. No, it's incredible. I mean, what a 2-week span. And then after that tournament at the Omaha Open, when you start to look at your goals for the year, what did those look like for you? Was it winning an NCAA title? Was it beating John Smith? I mean, what was your focus for the rest of the year? Was he like just kind of like Apollo Creed, taping up Rocky kind of thing?
A little bit, and you could tell by the respect-wise, that was part of my drive to make myself a name, and my dad being a national finalist, I think being an All-American, being in the finals, of course, following my dad's footsteps, that always weighed on my mind. And again, my coaches believed in me and trained me. Looking back, I would say I should have maybe not wrestled. I wrestled 49 matches that year. I still, amazingly, that I didn't know until a couple years ago, I still hold the record for most season wins at Nebraska.
Wow.
With 46. And I didn't even realize, I didn't even think about that. I didn't even know about it. In fact, for a couple of years ago, I still hold the record because nobody in this day and age can wrestle that many matches. It's just too brutal. And looking back, I should have tapered, rested more, and not. I mean, we trained and competed very, very hard, but I should have rested toward the end more. And then going into Big Eights, I mean, we still had Gibbons, who ended up getting third at NCAAs. I wrestled him twice, and like he's in our bracket. So you got the third best guy in the country in our bracket. So it wasn't like just focus all on John, but again, focus on make it to the finals and being All-American. And Gibbons, we have a great story. We dated sisters that summer, and had to have summer dinner together, knowing we're going to battle the whole year. We would sit at the table, just being pleasant and eating our dinner with these girls and their families, and knowing we'd have to basically try to kill each other in about 4 months. So,
were you guys cordial?
Oh yeah, the Gibbons, amazing class family. And I trained with Joe, and Joe beat me up a couple times, and I was lucky to be around him. And Jim has always been a supporter of me and my wrestling and my teams, and just a class family. So having them as another set of rivals was, you're not going to get much better than the Smith family or the Gibbs family. So I was around some of the best individual people, talent-wise, but people-wise, that drove me to be better.
And like you said, Mark Perry got there. Everyone who's wrestled for Mark Perry, who I've interviewed, a couple, 4 or 5 guys, they all say that he has an ability to instill confidence, and his belief in you is absolute. Did you see that?
Yeah, and I'll tell that story now of what happened with him, because he's married to Kathy Smith. A lot of people didn't know that. It's John Smith's brother-in-law, and they come and coach me. And so after and like I said before, Mark totally believed in me and wanted me to win 100%. It was never have loyalty somewhere else to Open State. He wanted me to win 100%. And amazing, I got to work out with the guy. A lot of people just got to get mentored and technique with him. I wrestled him, at least a couple of days a week. And my brother, my middle brother was still on Nebraska's team my senior year, and I could barely score in him. My middle brother he was an 18-pounder, And like I said, I got to work out with those two.
Dude, I saw the match of him and Mark Schwab. I forgot how good Mark Schwab was back then. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
But and you, like you said, that era, whew, there's some hammers all within like that Iowa, Nebraska, Oklahoma radius. But anyway, Mark Perry, sorry.
Yeah, so Mark Perry's story. So Mark comes to practice the next day and he's like, yeah, I don't think he tells us, but he tells the group that, yeah, Kathy's mad at me. Hasn't talked to me for a couple of days because she said that Mark coached me too hard. And he's like, of course I did. I want him to win. Look at all the blood, sweat, and tears in my career. I want him to win. And I thought that was a funny story. Kathy gave him the cold shoulder for a couple of days. But Kathy was always sweet and always a supporter of our team. So I don't have any
brotherly love though is hard though, man. Like know, I mean, it'd be hard to, no matter if you're, a husband's coach him or not, you'd always pretty much want to root for your brother.
Oh yeah, of course. And with my brothers, I got a little nervous for my matches, but when my brothers wrestled, oh man, I was super nervous. So that's funny that when it's brothers, I get more nervous watching my brothers wrestle than I did.
Oh, so no question.
So we get to the Big Eights, and of course you got Gibbons. I beat Gibbons in the semis, and I got Smith again. The score didn't look like it at the end because I got put in my back at the end, I think twice, but I was on him. I remember getting on my single 3 or 4 times and getting pretty close to getting him. And that was probably a close match till the end where I got put in my back. And then, again, looking back at it, you look at Mel Curry the next year, went totally square stance, forward to forward, and don't do anything, keep it close, try to win. But at Nebraska, we never even considered that. It was like, go wrestle your match and try to win and score some points like you normally do. Looking back at it, maybe I should have done a stall match and waited till the end. But again, just like I did 2 years ago, I'm going to try to take him down again. And I think ultimately, we get respect in certain ways. I think he respected that.
No, I mean, there's no question about it. And the fact that, like you said, to make the NCAA finals is one of the rarest feats in all of wrestling. And so I was looking back at the bracket. You rolled everyone that year. I mean, it wasn't even close. So what was your, I mean, it looked like everyone was like 6 points or more, a couple tacks. I mean, how were you feeling throughout the tournament that year?
I honestly, I was a little tired. I got a funny story for the semis. Nobody knows this story either. We're in D.C. because it's in Maryland, and it's Friday night for the semis, right? 7 o'clock start or 6 o'clock start. Well, we're stuck in traffic. Mark Perry, I think Mark's driving. He's going down the median. He's going over ramps. We're trying to get to the Coliseum. I'm putting my shoes on in the car, and I hear him calling my name, and I'm at the top of Cole Fieldhouse, and I start sprint. I didn't even warm up. I didn't even touch. I run down to the mat, and I jump on the mat, put my strap on, get my headgear, and I start wrestling without even a warm up or nothing. I get taken down. I'm losing, and luckily we got the crab, and that's where I was comfortable. I got a couple reversals, and I ended up winning against Paul Clark, who was a punker, 7-4 in the semis. But people don't know that I was putting my shoes on in the car, and we were almost got killed in a couple of wrecks just getting to the Coliseum.
You talk about the crab ride a lot. What were some of your go-to takedowns and on the mat? Was it a crab to a Mills type of thing?
That's so funny, Mills. Yeah, he was my hero and idol, and my half was a lot like his half. I wrestled him in the Midlands my sophomore year, and he put me in a half, almost pinned me. But I put him in his own half and had him pinned. You can ask Tim Newman. We went 15-16, and because he was my hero. I had his poster on my wall, but I had his half on him in the Midlands, and I ended up losing 15-16. But as a sophomore wrestling Gene Mills, I was like, yeah, that move does work. So yeah, I like the pullback crab and that punch half. And my takedowns, watching the Barry Davis match, I was still in my double mode, but I got a lot better at the swing single and pull and swing, and that was my go-to later on in international. And that you watch Sammy Henson, that's his single is a variation on how we did the single. So yeah, crazy. Another cool story that people have realized, I did wrestle John again.
Okay.
But not in competition. We did a camp together. I blew out my knee the next year, and that really dampened a whole year out. I had reconstruction. We were doing a camp in Kansas. Mark Perry set it up. John Smith's the headliner for it. Me and Dave Drugmuller and Chris Nelson just show up to help. And I didn't even work. I was still 4 months out of reconstruction, and we go to the camp. It's this huge session. There's 200-300 kids. I'm lightly dueling with Drugmuller, who was tough as crap. Should have definitely been All-American. Was hurt his senior year. John says, "Oh, you're wrestling. Why don't you go?" And I'm like, "Well, I got nothing else to do. Let's go." And so it was me, Drugmuller, and Smith. Of course, the camp shuts down. Nobody's teaching anything. Everybody huddles around the mat. And I think we went about 45 minutes. In the first 25 minutes, I did really well. 1, I was fresh. 2, I was strong. 3, but I was just coming back from my knee, and I hadn't wrestled anybody else ever in live goes, and I'm going with John Smith. But the first 20 minutes, we went pretty good. And after a while, he'd go to Drugmuller, just sit down. Just sit down. He kept pointing at me. Let's go some more. And I don't know if you went. I think we went 2 days, like 2 sessions of going. I know the first day I did really well. The second day, I probably got beat up pretty good. But it was a funny situation where people, you hear that story and people.
Is he that kind of competitive guy? Where he always? Yeah. Where did he put his competitiveness up there?
Oh, he wants to win at everything, and Mark Perry's that way, and Sammy Henson's that way, and that's just they don't want to lose at checkers. They don't want to, they just don't want to beat you. They want to dominate and they want to win, and that's how those practices were. And I felt pretty good. Heck, I haven't wrestled at all. I'm doing pretty good against John, and I was hitting that swing on him, and he goes, "What the heck is that?" And it was like a little outside carry thing. I did that a couple times, and he's like, "God, what are you doing?" So, but it was in a different atmosphere. But again, it was somebody would have had the video of that. It was some crazy scrambles.
What was he like personally? Did you get to know him at all?
A little bit through that camp, and of course with Mark. I recruited Pat and Mark to come to Nebraska, of course. They didn't come, but still, their whole family. I think when I recruited Pat, I stayed at the house. Senior Smith said, "Don't go to the hotel, stay at our house." That's the type of people they were. And I always considered Kathy and Mark. And I knew little Mark Perry when he was, 3-4 years old. Mark Perry Sr. would show a video of Mark Perry Jr. when he was 3 or 4, changing off to the high crotch and showing some of our guys, that's what you need to do. So
no way.
Yeah, that's another funny story. That's how you change off when you're to your high crotch to the double. That's a pretty funny story.
That's incredible. Man, I'm just trying to think of anything else here. There's so many little gems here. The one thing I did want to ask you though was not related to the Smiths, but you were around the Shear brothers a lot. Anything stick out from those guys that made them so successful? I don't know a lot about them, but they've come up a lot in researching this.
The Shear brothers were amazing. I remember my freshman year, they're in the van and they get in a fist fight in the van because about a match or them wrestling in practice. "No, I took you down. No, you didn't let me down. Oh, I got you 3 times." And they were fighting in the van my freshman year. I'm like, man, this is crazy. These guys are going full out, and I'm like not trying to get crushed as a little 18-pounder freshman. I go, these guys are intense. And just the whole atmosphere. I told you, Al Freeman, I'd sneak into the Devaney, and he'd be in there asking how do you sneak in, because he wanted to sneak in too. And a funny story, my freshman year, I snuck into the Devaney on a Sunday, and I was working out. I went into the sauna, and some older gentleman's in there sweating one out with the towel over his head, and he's like, "How'd you get in here?" And I'm going, "I snuck in." And he goes, "Where are you from, son?" I said, "Oh, Wyoming." He goes, "Oh, I used to coach at Wyoming." And we hung out and talked a little bit, and he goes, "Well, good luck to you." And it was Bob Devaney.
Wow.
It was Bogdanovich, what the building's named after. He was hanging out there with me, and then, he started coming to matches. I don't think because of me. I think the relationship with Tim and everybody. He started coming to the matches. If you look at some of the videos, Bogdanovich's in the matches, and he would start coming to our banquets. I mean, and of course later on the budget got bigger and bigger with his support. But he always said he liked the women that the wrestlers picked out. He's always a fan of that. But that other cool story is the two freshmen walking into the Bainey Center, and I hang out with Bob Devaney.
You mentioned that a couple of times that you'd sneak in the gym. I mean, when you were during your junior year, when you were training, what was a typical day in the life for you? Were you doing extra workouts and just you completely enthralled with it, going in at all hours?
Yeah. That year that I made the jump, my workout partner John Myers, who ended up being he's still famous director in Hollywood and Academy Award-winning director. Films he does. Just look John Myers, Ring of Fire. But he was my workout partner, and we basically beat the crap out of each other every day. We would get up in the morning, we go to class, we work out, and just pummel each other. And we did a camp for Jim and Bill Shear in South Dakota, and Myers and I went up there to go help with the camp. And Mark Manning, who's the coach at Nebraska now, he just got second in the U.S. Nationals. He's bigger than we are. I was 34. He ended up, 42, 50-pounder. And Mark Manning asked John and I, hey, you guys want to go? And I think we're just going to be juniors. I think it was our junior year, not our senior year. And we said, yeah, let's do it. And Myers and I, we got it. The first day, we got him pretty good. He's like, who are these dudes? Like, where did they come from? But it was coaching, him and I being committed to just be the best we could be, and then going places to find, like hanging out with the Shear brothers at camp. It's like I said, quite a few times I go to camps, to the World Camp, to see Gable and Camp Russell, hang out with the Shear brothers, Russell John Smith at a kids camp. But that's where you got better, and that was beating Manning, or going with Manning was the first time when I was in the middle of the transition. Hey, we're on the right track. We're on the right track.
And would you ever visualize matches or techniques in your head?
I think everybody does. And my dad is huge, was one of the first to do visualization through the whole matches, do the whole match in your head, and the time, and the whistle, the buzzard, and the whistle, and the audience. Everybody. He was one of the masters at that. He even did Olympic training centers. He was so good at it. And that was kind of before its time, and he instilled that. But I think even Henson, he self-talks and visualizes all the time. I think the champions do that, not even though it's taught or anything. They're talking themselves, they're visualizing it, and they're training. They're seeing that through their training. And everybody knows, and my family, every wrestler, that grind will get anybody. That grind. They don't call it the grind for anything. A lot of people, I made it through my coaching 15 years in a college wrestling room. John Smith, I don't know how many years he has already, but humans aren't supposed to be that. But that grind will get anybody. More people like, oh man, I made it through a year. Yeah, I did about 15 of those.
15. Wow. Yeah. Well, Gil, this has been awesome. Just two last questions for you. And I'm asking everyone this. If you were talking to someone on the street and they go, who's John Smith, or what descriptors come to mind when you think of John Smith? What are some of the first things that come to your mind?
I think his pursuit to be the best, to not shy away from any challenge. He does it as a coach. He did it as a competitor. He's going to be in the mix, and he trained, now you got videos of Jordan training. Anybody would want to see those videos of Smith training, what he did to get that level. Hardly anybody knows, because it's not a video culture or photo culture back then. But to see what he did to get to that level would be amazing to see. And again, never shying away, just like him coming to Omaha to wrestle me, just like he did with the Brands to wrestle them outside. He's not going to shy away from competition and the drive to be the best. a lot of people say, why don't you go down a weight or up a weight? And I'm like, why wouldn't you go face the best guy in the world? You know, there's an Indian saying that your honor or your reputation's based on the strength of your enemies. And again, in wrestling, I was able to wrestle the best ever. It made me who I am as a father and a coach, and our family. Wrestling start, you know, from being minorities in Wyoming to traveling the world and seeing the world, getting education. Everybody in my family are administrators. My father was a principal. I'm assistant principal, and my brothers are administrators. Their wives are administrators. My little brother, Frank, is Dr. Sanchez and the president of Rhode Island College in Rhode Island. And their team has a wrestling team. And we went to his inauguration. Of course, all of us go to wrestling practice before the inauguration. All the wrestlers are like, who are these dudes? And that's the president. He's at our practice. And they find out who we were, and to see their look, but to know that wrestling made our family who they are through wrestling, getting education, seeing the world, and just the amount of friends and the camaraderie that we've had. I mean, I can go to any state, any town, and I can look up who's the wrestling people, and they treat us with open arms and treat you like family. And here in South Carolina, people don't think South Carolina is a wrestling place. My county's a wrestling place, and the wrestling people here, they treat me like gold, and it's awesome.
Dude, one of the great Illinois wrestlers of all time, Tony Davis, who went to UNI, he's out in your neck of the woods. I think he's in North Carolina, though. But he's
right.
out there. He's a teacher, though, too.
Yeah. Well, Mark Cody, who is we coach together in Nebraska, he's at Presbyterian now. They started a wrestling program, men's and women's. And he's the one that sent me the Smith interview about our rivalry. And Mark and I have always been close. I went up there 3 or 4 times to hang out with him. And South Carolina is so blessed to have one of the best heavyweight coaches in the country, if not the world. I mean, look at his resume. Rulon, Tony Thompson, Munoz, Beering. I mean, you just keep going, Cormier. You're not going to get a who's who of that from anybody. But South Carolina is glad to have Mark Cody. And South Carolina, I think, added 4 different programs, men's and women's at Lander, Presbyterian men's and women's. I know Limestone added women. So it's awesome. I love it here. I mean, South Carolina in the winter and Wyoming, Colorado in the summer, you can get it better.
Awesome, man. Gil Sanchez, it's been an honor, sir. Thank you very much for taking the time. I would love to see that clip if you want to send it over. I'm dying to see it.
Yeah, I'll show you the clip, and I'll send you a couple of they took some amazing pictures of our finals match.
Send them.
Yeah, I'll send those, and then one from the duel, and then I'll send you the video. But yeah, it's my birthday today, so
happy birthday!
Yeah, so one of my top achievements, I might post that last 30 seconds on my Facebook.
Oh my! Please do. And if I'm ever out in your neck of the woods, I'll let you know, man. I'd love to meet up and.
Oh yeah, stop by Hilton Head area, and I'm 20 minutes from the beach. It's. Yeah, and good. People are amazing. I didn't know there's all these wrestling people here. Yeah, there's some good people. We have a blast here.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, sir. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
And all great things must come to an end. If you want to hear more from the podcast, text WRESTLE to 555-888. That's WRESTLE to 555-888. You can also find us on Instagram, Wrestling Changed My Life, Twitter, Ryan_N_Warner, as well as our website, WrestlingChangedMyLife.com. Take care, y'all. Take care, y'all. Take care, y'all. Take care, y'all. Take care, y'all.